So, welcome back to the lecture series on microprocessor and microcontrollers. Today in our lecture 12, we will be talking about the read-write cycle in minimum mode and maximum mode of 8086. And before we see the read-write cycle in maximum mode, we shall see the signals in maximum mode of 8086. It's a system configuration in maximum mode. In today's lecture, we will be checking out this small recap of what we have studied in our previous class. That is the minimum mode signals and system configuration, followed by the read cycle in minimum mode, how the processor is reading data from the memory in a minimum mode. It can be reading from memory or it can be reading from IO devices, that means input devices also. And then after that one, we will be continuing the study of the timing diagram of write cycle in minimum mode. After completing that, we will move into the maximum mode signals of 8086. And obviously we'll see this system configuration of maximum mode, and finally the timing diagrams of read-write cycle in maximum mode of operations. So these were the signals. You can check it out here, pin number 24 to 31, signals of 8086 minimum mode. Each one of this one we have discussed in thorough, that is the read cycle. Anyhow, the read pin was available in common mode. The write available is here in a more specific minimum mode pin is there, write signal, pin number 29. Then followed by it, we have checked the pin number 20, that is memory/IO bar. This is to give the signaling understanding that the processor is doing the data communication with memory or IO devices. So high on this line means the data is communicating, is being communicated by the processor over the memory. Okay, memory exchange of data will be happening, and whenever this signal is low, it indicates the processor is communicating the data with input-output devices. After this pin number 28, we have seen pin number 27, that is DT/R bar. This is an indication whether the data will be coming into the processor or going out of the processor. And we have seen that how this pin is being connected to the data buffers to make the understanding of the data direction to the data buffers, whether it will be coming from the processor side or it will be coming from the opposite side, that is the peripheral side. DEN bar and ALE signal, these two signals 26 and 25, we have seen that these two signals are used for demultiplexing the address data lines, AD lines, demultiplexing them. Okay, separate the address from the data and data from the address. And finally this pin number 24 was interrupt acknowledgement. We have seen that whenever the interrupt request is being sent to the processor on pin number 18, the response whether that interrupt is accepted or not will be acknowledged on this pin number 24 by the processor. After this, we have seen this hold and hold acknowledgement. These two pins are used here for making the processor operations easy, in a way that here whenever the data communication is only going on between the IO devices and memory, where the involvement of processor is not required. So unnecessary waste of processor time and efficiency will be involved in that cases where the only data communication is needed between the memory and IO devices. In such cases, to bypass the processor, these two lines are used by the bus controller. There will be another bus controller in the system which will take charge of the buses, the system buses, the data and address buses, and that bus controller will send a request to the processor for the grant of system bus by this signal 31, pin number 31, hold signal. And once that request is accepted by the processor will communicate the grant of the system bus to the bus controller on pin number 30. It will send an acknowledgement that the system buses can be taken by the bus controller. So the bus controller generally what will do that it will bypass the processor. Suppose the input, we are inputting something from the input devices that has to be not processed, only just stored in the memory devices. That time the processor will be bypassed and the direct data coming from the input will be taken by the bus controller through the system buses obviously, and it will be sent to the memory for the storage. Similar cases, whenever there is some data available in the memory which has to be without processing sent out to on some lines, output it has to be done. That time also the bus controller does that. It will take the data from the memory without processing or without making the processor involved in one, it will bypass the processor and give that directly to the output devices requiring that data. Okay, so these two lines will help the processor for enhancing its performance by not just wasting the efficiency and the time of the processor at the times of pure data communications where no processing is required. Okay? And after these signals, we have checked out this minimum mode system of 8086. Obviously, a system contains a processor and other required peripherals to it, such that it can function as a computer. So you can see here on the left hand side, immediately here, there is a clock generator circuit. The IC number 8284, last time I've told you, it is used for generating all the clocking requirements of 8086. Okay, it gives the clock input to it. It gives a ready input of the processor also, and it makes a reset also available to the processor depending upon the other modules. Here, the ready signal, when it is given to the processor, it is meant for synchronizing the slower devices. So this ready signal is actually driven by the slower devices, that by this particular wait state generator here. So wait state generator will be checking the completion of task or the operation of data with the slower devices, memory devices and all that, and update this clock generator regarding that one, and getting that one into account, the clock generator will send a ready signal to the processor, such that the data communication by the memory devices has been completed. Here on the other side, we can see that there are the 3 latches available, each one of 8-bit size, such that they store the 20-bit address temporary, such that for one cycle of a machine, when the data processing, either read or write operations are happening, address of that data where to be accessed is stored into the latches without the loss of address. Similarly, here these 2 buffers are available for the storage of the data temporarily, such that while the read and write operation of the data is going on, and due to the dynamic nature of the AD lines, that it changes its states between the address and data continuously, such that the data should not be lost. It should be stored somewhere in the system throughout the machine cycle of a read or write. So these 2 buffers are used for that purpose. And one may question that why we are using latches only for the address and the buffers for the data. The answer is very simple here. As you can see, the address communications are one way. The processor will send out the address out onto the lines of AD lines, and it will be taken by the memory devices or the IO devices, the address of their data. Now it is one directional, so the latches are sufficient to store that, latch that address onto this latch devices and store it for the complete one machine cycle. Whereas data communications are bidirectional, so data can come from the processor side into this buffer, or it can come from the IO devices and memory side into this data buffer. Okay, so for the bidirectional movement of the data, latches are not sufficient here. The shift registers are required actually. So a buffer shift register is used here. So 2 of them are there. Each one is capable of showing the 8 bits of the data. So 8 total 16 data lines, 16 bits of data can be stored upon this data buffers. We have seen in our earlier class about this memory read cycle of 8086. You can see the clock signal is there. Now when I was talking about machine cycle is this thing, consists of these all time states, clock cycles, clock cycle T1, T2, T3, TW and T4. So basically W, depending upon the speed of operation of the peripherals, memory or IO devices, number of time states for TW may vary, may change. Okay, for few devices that TW will be sufficiently one enough. For a few more devices, as they are more slow, they may be having 2 wait states or 3 wait states and so on accordingly. Now the wait state cycles will be monitored by the wait generator of the clock circuit. In the early system we have seen it, and according to that only this ready signal is been created. You can see the multiple transitions and low high is there here, and it monitors number of wait cycles required for that particular operation. Okay, and it settles, it becomes high only when the last wait cycle is been given to the clock generator. Okay, last wait cycle is monitored by the clock generator, and it will generate the ready signal accordingly. Okay, this ready signal. Now other things you can check it out. In our previous class we did not talk about this M/IO bar. Basically this is one line it can behave as in low or high. So when this particular line is low, that means the reading of data is going on between the processor and the input devices, IO devices basically. So IO bar means low. When it is low, it is for IO read type of communications. Okay, read or write obviously, but here as we are seeing read cycle, when this line is low, in the green color line you can check it out, it is low throughout the whole machine cycle. That means here the data read operation can happen when this green line is there from the IO devices. And similarly, when this particular blue line is there, the data read operation from the memory it is happening. So this line, either that green line will appear or the blue line, both, not both, just to make you understand that there are two operations assigned to the one particular signal, M/IO bar. So M, when it is the blue line, it is a memory read cycle. The whole thing you can draw one more time just by indicating this, only one blue line here, eliminating that green IO line. So it becomes memory read cycle. But instead, when you are having only the green line and not the this blue line, the whole timing diagram IO read cycle of 8086. So memory read cycle and IO read cycle, they depend upon this particular pin IO M/IO bar. Okay, and you can see the data, address data and address status, how they are time multiplexed. For certain amount of time they contain the address, and another amount of time they contain the data. Same is the case between the address and status lines. Okay, that A16, 17, 18, 19. And along with this one, even BHE bar and S7. BHE bar and S7 is also time multiplexed. Okay, BHE bar and S7. So these are S3, 4, 5, 6 and S7 is on BHE bar. So for whenever that is showing the addresses A16, 17, 18, 19, that BHE bar will be showing BHE bar. Okay, and whenever next time, here it will be showing status actually S3, 4, 5, 6, that time that BHE/S7 will show the S7 line. So for half of the machine cycle, they will be as address lines and BHE bar, and for the other half of the cycle, or I can say for the one T state at least, they were address lines and BHE bar, and for next cycles of time states 2, 3, 4 and TW also, they will be acting as a status lines S3, S4, S5, S6 and S7. Okay, that is about this particular address and status lines. For your information, again I want to tell you that address lines are one directional, unidirectional. From one side the processor to the memory or IO devices it will go. Okay, status lines are also output lines basically. The processor status is being shown on the status lines. So they are also one directional. But the data lines, they are bidirectional. The data can communicate both ways. It can be coming from processor to the peripherals, or it can be coming from peripherals to the processor. Okay, so remember always this one, that status and address are unidirectional and data lines are bidirectional. Okay, and as this one is a read cycle, you can see this particular read signal active here. When it is low, that means it is active. It is read bar, so active when it is low. So it will be active to indicate that the read operation is going on. And about the DT/R bar, there is a dark green color here. We have talked about earlier about this particular signal, is that whenever this signal is high, the processor is transmitting, okay, or writing. The flow of data is from processor to the peripherals. But whenever it is low, it is receiving, it is reading. The flow of data will be from peripherals to the processor. So this signal obviously it is given to the data buffers, and the data buffers can understand whether the data is communicated which direction, from processor to peripherals or peripherals to processor. Last one is DEN bar, data enable, and again this is also an active low, and as ALE is working for the triggering of latches to switch on, this DEN bar will be acting as a trigger for the buffer to switch on, to accept the data input, okay, and provide the data output also to the required direction, whether it is a processor one side, when the processor is reading, receiving, and the processor will be sending, and the peripherals will be getting the data when it is processor transmit, okay, processor writing. So that change in that DT/R bar you can see in the immediate next slide when we'll be talking about minimum mode write cycle. See that the minimum mode 8086 write cycle, it is there. Clock is as it is, M/IO bar is as it is. We have not changed anything into the signals there. ALE is same, Address and data latches are almost the same. Status line is also same. Write signal is there instead of read signal because it's a read operation. And you can see the the write signal is going low. That means it's becoming active for an indication that the processor is writing the data. Ready signal is same as it was there in the previous read cycle. Okay. And then here you see that DT/R bar is becoming a high here. So when it is becoming high, indicates that the processor is transmitting. Okay. When it is high, processor is transmitting. When it is low, processor is receiving. In the earlier, the processor was receiving. In this, the processor is transmitting. And data enable, you can see here, because the data has to be enabled in the buffers. Again, this is active here. As this one is low, it is active. Okay. That is 8086 minimum mode write cycle. Read cycle earlier in the class we have seen it, and the write cycle we have seen it today. Once you understand any one of the timing diagrams, other all timing diagrams will be easily understood because they follow the same particular machine cycle T1, T2, T3, TW and T4. Okay. The whole this timing diagram can be drawn 2 times. Once indicating only the blue line over this M/IO bar, that is memory write cycle it becomes. That time we should not show this green line regarding the IO bar. And one more time we can draw it when not showing the M, that is blue here, and only showing the green indicating the IO write cycle. Same applies for the read cycle also. Memory read cycle it can be, or IO read cycle it can be. Okay, that is about the minimum mode read and now the write cycles of timing diagram. Now, in our today's section continued, we will be talking about the maximum mode signals of 8086. Maximum mode signals of 8086. Now, earlier we have seen this pin number 33 is responsible for the switch between the minimum mode signals to the maximum mode signals and back. Obviously, if you put a 1 on this line, logic 1 on this line, the processor 8086 will be in the minimum mode of operation. And when you put a 0 on these lines, the processor becomes into the maximum mode of operation. These all signals here 24 to 31, we can check it out here, QS0, QS1, they are the Q status signals. Q status. So the processor's Q, internal instruction queue is there 6 bytes. Earlier while discussing the architecture diagram of the 8086 in the bus interface unit, we have checked out that there is an instruction queue available, 6 bytes of instruction queue. So this QS0 and QS1 indicates the status in that queue, whether that queue is empty or it is fetching the data from the memory, or what about that one, we will see. The both of these two works together. QS0 is the LSB bit of indication, QS1 is the MSB bit of indication. So these two binary lines indicates 4 type of operations going on into the instruction queue. What that 4 operations are, that let us check it out. Next is our the status lines. Status lines, earlier we have seen that time multiplexed with A16, 17, 18, 19 are status line S3, S4, S5, S6, and the time multiplexed with BHE bar is our S7. So out of the status bus 8 bits, we can see that 5 we have already seen. Okay, but anyhow the detailed operation of this status line S3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 we did not touch. Maybe in the future classes whenever required I will go to the status line S3 to 7. But today we have to focus upon this particular lines, pin number 26 to 28, that is S0 bar, S1 bar and S2 bar. So again these 3 line together works as a 3 signals, 3 binary bits, gives total 8 different combinations, 2 power 3, 8 different combinations of the status. And what those status are, we will check it as we'll be checking about the queue. 4 operations, 2 are there, binary, 2 power 2, 4 combinations they will give it. And the status lines S0, S1, S2, S0 bar, S1 bar, S2 bar gives us total 2 power 3, that is 8 combinations. So 8 operations what they are showing us, 8 status what they are showing us. We will check it at that one. After that one, pin number 29 is lock signal. It is an output signal to indicate that lock of system bus. We will talk about that one. And finally we have the pin number 30 and 31 as request grant signals. So there are 2 signals used here for request grant between the processors. in between processor 1 and 2, they communicate upon each other that who will be the boss of the system. Okay, one by one we will check about all these signals. Let us start. We'll be starting our discussion first talking about the queue status. So in bus interface unit, we have seen that we are having the instruction queue of 6 bytes. 6 bytes instruction queue is there in our 8086 bus interface unit. Now, how that particular operations are going on and what is the status of that queue, instruction queue, which is of 6 bytes in BIU, bus interface unit, these two lines will show us the status of that thing. These two lines shows the status of instruction queue. What it shows us, the processor provides the status of the queue on these lines. So what exactly the queue is doing, whether it is fetching the data or not, whether it is empty or not, or what is the status will be shown here, and it can be seen in this table next. The table here shows that these two lines, queue status QS0 and QS1. QS0 is LSB bit, QS1 is the MSB bit of the queue status. So these two, as I said earlier, also gives us 4 combinations of operations. So when both the lines are 0, 0, it indicates that the queue is not performing any operation right now. Instruction queue in bus interface unit is basically not doing any operation. So 0, 0, no operation is going on there. Okay. When it is 0 and 1, that is 0 on QS1 and 1 on QS0, first byte of the opcode from the queue is been taken. First byte of the opcode is been taken from the queue. First byte of opcode means here our instructions when we write in assembly language program, earlier we have discussed that the assembler will be used for converting that into the machine code. Basically, for each instruction, there will be a one machine code equivalent that we call as an opcode. Basically, opcode is a binary converted thing of our assembly language instruction. Something, one line in the program of assembly language will write in the assembly language program, okay, using the instruction set. That thing, when converted into the machine language, that one particular line code we call as opcode. So every instruction will have the opcode. Okay. So when these two lines are 0, 1, okay, the second combination, the first byte of an opcode from the queue is been accessed. First byte of an opcode from the queue is been accessed. Now, when the combination here it is 1, 0, that means QS1 is 1 and QS0 is 0. That time it's an indication that the processor is showing us the indication that its internal instruction queue is empty. And lastly, when these both lines are 1 and 1, QS1 and QS0 both are 1 and 1, that time it is an indication by the processor to us that subsequent byte is been accessed. Now, what is meant by subsequent byte? Earlier we have seen that the first byte is been accessed in this combination 0 and 1. First byte of opcode is been accessed from the queue. So sometimes some instruction sizes will be more than a byte. So the next byte followed by it, second byte of the instruction is been accessed here. So 4 operations of the queue are either queue is not doing anything, no operation is going on, or the queue is empty, okay, or the queue is been accessed for the first byte of opcode, or the queue is been accessed for the subsequent byte of the opcode, the second byte of the opcode. So these two lines shows us the queue status. Now many of you are maybe having the doubts that earlier in the minimum mode we have seen that there is // available, data enable is there, dt/r bar is there, m/io bar is there, write is there. Those all things are not visible at all in the maximum mode. So are these operations are not carried out or what? There is no, not even the interrupt acknowledgement in this maximum mode available as we see these signals. But not to worry, all such operations, that is m/io bar, what operation the m/io bar is doing to indicate whether the data is communicated over the processor or memory or processor IO devices. That particular function is there here. Interrupt acknowledgement function is there here. The write signal operations are there here. Okay. So all such operations are basically multiplexed into these 3 bits. Okay. These 3 bits are the status operations, and these 3 bits are given to another device in the maximum mode 8086 system, which is called as a bus controller. About the bus controller earlier also I have told you. Now in maximum mode it is more important to have a bus controller, because I am saying that in one CPU, in one computer, there are more than one processor. But memory and IO devices will be talking to the processor via a system bus. Okay, inside internal to a CPU, it will be having one bus connected to the hard disk. If you have ever noticed, opened your desktop computer, nowadays anyhow that is coming a very compact cable, but now earlier it was to be a parallel lines of series of not series, the parallel lines combinations were there of a communication lines between the memory and the CPU. So those are called system bus. Now when there are more than one processor, always it's a conflict will arise that who will be the boss, who will be controlling the access of that bus. Say example, we will see that in a processor system of 8086 maximum mode, we are having 2 processors. 2 8086 processor, both configured in maximum mode, are there in one computer. Along with this one memory is there and IO devices are there. Now the communication between the core of the CPU, in the core we are having 2 processors. From the core of the CPU and memory, only one bus will be there, that is called as a system bus. Again from there to the IO devices also one bus will be there, that is again called as a system bus. Now in the core there are 2 hearts, there are 2 CPUs. Which one will be accessing that bus? Who will make sure that there is no conflict of access of the bus? So when there are 2 equal things available inside that one, so the power is given to the some other moderator which is neither of these 2. Okay, another device will be brought into picture which will try to avoid this conflict here. The conflict is to be which we are saying that who will access the system bus. So there will be an involvement of a bus controller. A specific IC is used here in 8086 maximum mode computers, that IC number 8288. When I am giving these the IC numbers to you, they are not that much important for our course of study, but always to understand the system's working, you have to remember these IC numbers. 8288 is one of the ICs which is a bus controller. Okay, Intel's bus controller is there. So that one will be taken and it will be acting as a bus master. So system buses will be available with that bus master. So obviously when there are 2 processors are there, there won't be any problem of conflict between the 2 processors within. But now whenever one processor is performing certain tasks, it has to fetch the instructions and data and do it from the memory. Now as a bus is not available with that particular thing, it has to communicate to that one with the bus controller to give it the access of the bus. So about this whole concept of bus master and all, we will see as we are progressing. Now why I told you about this bus master is that these 3 status lines, S0 bar, S1 bar and S2 bar, these 3 signals are given as an input to the bus master. Okay, such that the bus master can understand that what exactly is going on in this particular processor and what this processor wants to do. So whether it wants to write the data or read the data, and if it wants to write the data, it wants to write the data to the memory or to the output device, or if it is reading the data, whether it wants to read the data from the input devices or read the data from the memory devices, or it has to indicate the interrupt acknowledgement. So such all signals are handled and given the understanding by the bus controller by taking these 3 signals in status lines. So the bus controller will take these 3 signals in and accordingly generate those all other signals required, which are called as control signals. Earlier in the minimum mode also we have seen the control signals. M/IO bar is a control signal, DT/R bar is a control signal, INTA bar is a control signal. So all those signals, write, read, these are all control signals. So these control signals will be generated by the bus controller by taking these 3 lines input from the processor. We will see the system configuration also, there you will understand more clearly. But as these 3 lines are there and these 3 lines are giving us the 8 different combinations of them, and each combination refers to one particular operation or one particular signal status of the 8086 processor. So what are those? Let us see now. Here you can see S0 bar, S1 bar and S2 bar. SE0 bar acts as a LSB bit and S2 bar is a MSB bit here. When all these three lines are 0, it indicates that interrupt acknowledgement is been generated by the processor. INTA bar, earlier we have seen this INTA bar, pin number 24 in minimum mode. So that pin number 24 INTA bar is not available in maximum mode. So basically these three status lines, when all are 0, generates this INTA bar signal here. Okay, generates the INTA bar signal. Similarly, now there is a read operation and a write operation of the processor. And when it is read operation, it can be again two types, memory read or IO read. And when it is write operation, again it can be two types, memory read, IO read and IO write. So all these four, memory read, memory write, IO read and IO write, these all signals are available in the form of the status combinations 0001, 001, that is read IO port, 010 is the write IO port, 101 is the read memory, and 110 is the write memory. These four signals, these four access of the memory and IO devices by the processor, you can check it out here. 001 read IO port, 010 write IO port, then 101 is read memory, 110 is the writing the memory. So these four are done. In between this IO read and memory read write and IO read write, you can see one combination of status lines, that is 011. So combination 011 says that halt. So processor does not want to do anything right now, it just want to halt the process or halt the all controlling signals. Okay, 011 is that combination. Now another is there below the halt, that is 100. 100 combination of status lines indicates that the processor wants to access the code, that means program instructions. So it is a type of a memory read operation only, but specifically it will read the code segment of the memory where the program is stored, program instructions are stored. So code access of the memory will be granted to the or indicated by the processor to the bus master that 100 on the status lines is a code access, and seeing that one, the bus master will give the access of the system bus according to the given asked condition that it wants to access the code, the program. Okay, and the last combination of these all 111, it says that it is inactive. Okay, here it says the status lines are active only for the first 7 combinations. For the 8th combination, when they all are 111, they are inactive. Okay, as you can see, that is status S0 bar, S1 bar, S2 bar. So they are active low signals. When they are 0, then only they are active. So last combination gives all of them as 1. So they are inactive, passive. So they do not define any particular combination or operation. Okay, whereas other 7, they indicate some or other operations. We can see that one out of that 7 operations, 4 operations are of memory and IO read write. 1 operation is of interrupt acknowledgement. Okay, 1 is of program code access, and 1 more is of a halt. That means no operation to be carried out by the processor. Okay, with the system buses. So that is about the status lines. This pin numbers you can check it out, 26, 7 and 8. Status line 26, 7 and 8, and their combinations, how they are decoded by to the bus controller. How they are decoded by the bus controller. The bus controller will see them and decode accordingly that what processor wants to do. The next is lock signal. This particular signal is an output signal, you can check it out, and active low output signal it is. Here, this signal is used in a multi-processor system by one of the processors to indicate that whenever it is doing a very important and the task in which the access of the bus is very requirement is there with that processor. So by writing this lock, LOCK, lock prefix to the instructions which are of high importance, where the access of the system bus cannot be snatched away from the processor meanwhile when it is doing that operation. Okay, because the processors are not the bus master, you have to understand, as I told you earlier also. Bus master is something else. Bus controller IC 8288, that IC will take care about the bus control. And if suppose a processor asked for the system bus access and it is using the system bus at a particular moment of time, that time if the instructions or the bus what are being executed by the processor are very sensitive, that moment of time the bus access is removed from the processor, the instructions execution may fail. So in those all cases, what the processor will do is that it will generate out this one signal, lock signal. It will generate a low on this signal, active low it is, so it will generate a low on this signal, indicating to the other processors in the system and also to the bus master, bus controller 8288, that the particular processor is now locked the access of the system bus. That moment of time, nobody can take away the bus access from that processor. Okay, and it will be locked till that instruction which is given with the prefix LOCK, okay, will be executed. So one complete instructions which are given with the prefix lock, while they are being executed, so this access of the system buses will be restricted to this processor only. No other processor or the bus master can take away the access of system bus the moment when the particular process has indicated this pin number 29 as low. Okay, and when this will show this, when this particular processor shows this particular pin number 29 as low, is that it is when the instructions with the prefix LOCK are being executed by that processor. Okay, which are sensitive instructions, and that moment of time when these instructions are being executed, the access of system bus cannot be taken away from that processor. Lastly, we have this request and grant signals. Obviously, when we are having a multi-processor system and there is a bus master also in this, we can see that request and grant things to be there. Somebody requires access of the system bus, should request to the other device on these two lines, and once the request is accepted, the reply of acknowledgement of that one also should be given on to this same lines. These are bidirectional lines you can see. So in a 18086 system, we can have an additional one more processor and a bus master. So one of the lines will be connected to the bus master, another lines will be connected to the another processor. So they all will be interlinked to each other, and they will be communicating the access of system bus over these two lines. So somebody who requires the access of system bus should send a request on this line. Okay, and once they are granted with the system bus, they will be acknowledged on this line only. And as there are two such lines are there, request grant signals, one of that one will be having higher priority than the other, and here GT0, okay, LSB, that will be having higher priority than GT1. Grant 0 is having higher priority than the grant 1. Okay, request grants are for that one. All these request grants, status lines, we can see that they are being available to communicate with the bus master and other processor. Specifically, request grants are used for communicating with the bus master and the another processor in the system, whereas status lines are being given to the bus master to make the bus master understand that what operation the processor wants to do. Memory read, memory write, interrupt acknowledgement, IO read, IO write, or code access, or do nothing. Okay. This is a system diagram of the 8086. You can have a look on this diagram. So now, when you see this diagram and compare with the previous minimum mode system configuration, on the left side, this particular thing is same. There is no change in that one. Clock generator is as it is. Processor is there as it is. Latches and these buffers are also there as it is. What makes it little bit different here is that in the previous minimum mode system we have seen here, these lines were not there, S0, S1 and S2. Instead here we got M/IO bar, okay, write signal, read signal. Instead of these all, and INTA bar also, they were control signals indication. For your knowledge, I'll go back to that particular slide and show you minimum mode system. We got this minimum mode system here. You can check it out. The control bus is being given the name here, and what it has, M/IO bar, INTA bar, read and write. These signals are not available in maximum mode. So instead of these signals, what we have in maximum mode, that I will show you. Here you can see instead of having that INTA bar, M/IO bar, read, write, we are having S0 bar, S1 bar, S2 bar. So those operations, control signals which were called there, they are not available here. But as these three lines are available, they act as a status indicator to the bus controller, and the bus controller will generate the control signals out of it. So these three status lines are given input to the bus master, bus controller 8288, and this thing will generate the control signals. Now here all are the control signals, you can check it out. So the last one, the bottommost thing here, the last generated out signal of this bus controller, here it is INTA bar, and as you progress upwards, I will read out and make you explain the understanding about each signal. Any other things are not required to be discussed here, we have done in the minimum mode. So we shall only talk about the signals coming out of the bus controller. So INTA bar, it is interrupt acknowledgement. Okay, this thing is coming out as a control signal from the bus master on the status indicator as 000 of the status lines. S0 bar is 0, S1 bar is 0, S2 bar is 0. When all are 0, this INTA bar has been generated out by the bus controller. That next is AIOWC. Wherever you find A, one more will be there here, AMWC. They are advanced IO write cycle and advanced memory write cycle. Advanced IO input output device write cycle and advanced memory write cycle. Others are IO write cycle, IO read cycle, okay, or here C stand for not the cycle but the command, okay, advanced IO write command, IO write command, IO read command, advanced memory write command, memory write command, and memory read command. Okay, so you can see here total 6 signals are there for the read write operations. 2 read write operations with the IO read command and IO write command are there, and 2 are similar are there for the memory read command and memory write command, the uppermost 2. Including these 2 more functionalities are there. Whenever the processor is writing, we have discussed earlier that the processor speed is more when compared to that of the memory devices and the IO devices. Whenever the processor is writing, write operations are there. There are 2 more signals such that the processor completes the writing of one more set of data fast. Okay, there it is not dependent upon the memory. It will give it, memory will slowly take away, read it into it. Processor will give the writing, memory will take the reading accordingly. Maybe it is slow also, but processor is done with its writing functions. So for that one, advanced write memory and advanced write IO, 2 signals are there. They are advanced by 1 time state actually. They are advanced by 1 time state. So that is your operation of writing from the processor increases by 1 time state ahead. Okay, whereas read operations are dependent upon the peripherals, because here the processor control is not with the processor. The data has to come from there and then only the processor can read. So we do not have advanced read commands, but we have advanced write commands, advanced IO write command and advanced memory write command. And obviously the INTA bar is here. Remaining all the system configuration is similar to what we had in the minimum mode. Extra thing is this one particular device, bus controller 8288. Next is our maximum mode read cycle. Seems almost the same. In addition to the read cycle of minimum mode, what extra we have it is this S0 bar and S0 bar, S1 bar, S2 bar. 3 lines indicated as a bus here. When there are more than 1 line or the combination of more than 1 lines are called bus. Bus is generally the select group of lines together. So S0, S1, S2. When I am writing S2 dash S0, that means S2 bar is there, S1 bar is there, S0 bar is there. So you can see for the time steps T1 and T2 it is active. For T3 and T8 it is inactive. Okay, towards the end of the T4 again it is active. So active, inactive and active. This cycle goes on this status lines continuously. Okay, and when it is active, their combination can be anything. Can be 000, 001, 010, 011 and you can see the so on except the 111 combination. When it is inactive, that combinations will be 1111. When these are inactive, the combinations of status lines will be 1, 1 and 1. Okay. Otherwise, the address data lines, AD lines are as it is, address status lines are as it is. Instead of having read signal, we are having memory read signal here. Either memory read or IO read, both will be same. So if it is reading from the memory, it will be MRDC signal here. If it is reading from the IO devices, you can see it will be a IORC here. IORC, right? It is memory read, that will be IO read. That signal is there. DT/R bar, as we have seen that this signal is not there nowhere, but from where it came. So for that one, I'll take you back into the previous slide one more time and show you where this DT/R bar and DEN are there. So bus controller not only generate this control signals, I and TA bar and memory read write and IO read write. Along with that one, it gives us 3 more signals here. Okay, that is ALE, DT/R bar and DEN. Notice a small difference that earlier in minimum mode, DEN bar is available, active low, data enable. But here, these signals are not given by the processor out, but bus master is giving these signals ALE, DT/R bar and DEN, active high, data enable. So from here, it has been given to the latches and the buffers. ALE to the latch, DT/R bar and DEN to the buffer. When you see that DEN is given, it is given through a inverter circuit here, not gate, because input of output enable of the buffer is active low, and here the DEN is active high. So to invert that one, this inverter is here. Coming back to the timing signals again, so we have that DT/R bar. There's a dark green color line here, and it is low. It is low means the processor is receiving. Okay, reading, receiving, it's low. And DEN bar is when the data enable is there, it is high. This difference again you have to notice that in minimum mode read cycle, this yellow DEN bar was there and it was low, but this time it is DEN and it is high. So that is active low and high difference in minimum mode and maximum mode. Okay, so this is a maximum mode read cycle of memory. Similarly, IO read cycle can be taken by having the indication here as instead of MRDC as IORC, IO read command. So we are making into our last topic of this session, that is the maximum mode write cycle. Again, everything will be similar there. Clock is there as it is. ALE bar, ALE signal is there. Not bar, ALE signal is there. And the status lines S0 bar, S1 bar, S2 bar as an bus format, they are available here. Active, inactive, and then active again. And address data lines, AD lines are there. Address status lines are there. And here this time I have shown you 2 lines. Instead of a write 1 line, 2 lines of write we have shown you here. Normal memory write or IO write is this particular pink type of a color line, which is here at this particular point going low. You can check it. Okay, but above this line I have shown you advanced write command, advanced memory write command or advanced IO write command. It is advanced by a little amount. You can check it here. That little amount is exactly 1 time state. So advanced write commands are 1 time state ahead. The processor writes it 1 time state ahead by the conventional normal write commands, memory and IO write commands. Okay, and then we have DT/R bar, that is high this time because the processor is writing, it is transmitting. Okay, and DEN bar is DEN signal is active high at this point when it has to enable the buffer. So that is all about the maximum mode write cycle also. So here we are towards the end of our this session. Thank you. See you in the next session.